How often do we think about our self care? In a society like the one we live in today, I feel like we neglect a lot of our mental and physical well being. And as a working mom in a household of one income, it's truthfully hard to say to myself, how can I work on my mental and physical well being when I have basically three other people in my household to take care of first? I don't want to say I don't prioritize my self help, but I feel like with what I've gone through back from, when I started working through my cancer journey and up until where I am today, I feel like I found my way to actually pour into my cup because truthfully, if you pour into your cup daily, you notice a happier and a better you. So that's where I want to take this podcast today. So let's talk about self-care. Let's talk about how we can work on it and essentially how we can become better as an individual, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend in a crazy, crazy society like the one we live in today. When I started working, I was obviously pretty young. I was not aware of, these type of things, right? Would I be reading them, the five things to self-care or the happier you or, these self-help books when I was younger? I mean, I would pick up a magazine here or there and I would look into, what the article would say and, read into it. So of course, they would prioritize like makeup, your physical, your outer appearance, as well as how how much money, in a sense, do you need to have in order for you to be happy. Now, I'm going to touch on that money part, a little bit later on in this episode. But I do want to start saying when I was younger and working, my thought of self care was essentially that, the outer appearance, your outer physical appearance, how you needed to look, if you needed the hairstyle of the week, if you needed, the nails and jewelry, purses, whatever it was. I truthfully thought that was self-care. Now looking at it through a different lens, self-care in itself was me trying to work through those younger years of my life. A lot of the times in an immigrant household, for example, we are put in a spot in like a pressure to be somebody in our life. But in order to be somebody in our life, we have to have the confidence and the reassurance to do so. And I feel like a big tip now that I'm a mom of two boys is be confident. Write down all the qualities that make you you. And just say, because of this, I'm able to make my decisions and I'm able to be credible to a point where I don't have to turn to my mom or dad, or I don't have to turn to like a coworker or, a friend in order for me to make that decision. A lot of the times when I was younger, I needed the validation. Why? Because I was unsure of myself. I wasn't understanding what it was to adult in a society like the one I was growing up. I wish I had that role model, that that guidance that I talk about, but I didn't. So a lot of the things that I learned by myself, I learned in a way that have changed my life. And now I'm trying to be that mentor and be that person to actually go up to somebody and say, hey, if you need my help, I am here for you. I can give my opinion, and let you know what I think of the situation. But that's it. There's nothing more as a mentor can do but just guide that person. So how do I pour into my cup today? One of the biggest attributes to my success, and I'm going to call it success because I've come a long way, is setting myself goals. And I can tell you this, when it comes to something serious like my job or even this podcast, like I physically write down what it is I want to achieve within a certain time frame. Beforehand, I wasn't able to, and I learned the hard way. And learning the hard way opens, I don't know if it's just me, but it opens a lot of doors in where you're able to improve. But for example, and this is just me, as a cancer patient, one of my goals, one of my strongest attributes was essentially advocating for ovarian cancer, and those who were going through any type of cancer. That's why this whole entire podcast started, because I set myself to think that way. I knew that by doing this, I was able to satisfy something within me that potentially I knew um, had a success rate behind it. And now that I'm deep into the episodes, for example, I've invested in the software, I've invested in the mics, and, I've invested time into researching subjects and actually being able to say, hey, you know what? These people are going to like this topic, or my audience is going to resonate with this topic. So that's why you see a lot of my episodes aiming towards, the cancer patient and the well-being after the fact. So that is one of the biggest attributes that I can say, that setting some goals and achieving them within a time frame has helped me immensely with my mental well-being. The next one, I think it came along the lines of actually bettering myself physically. And this started essentially once I had the diagnosis, the ovarian cancer and uterine cancer diagnosis. I knew for a fact that I was letting all the negative impact me, that I physically saw myself changing to a person that, was essentially worried, full of anxiety, and didn't want to, what's the word, credit herself, because I didn't want to let myself think that I had come a long way during my cancer journey. And because I had a negative block, that impacted a lot of my physical well-being. So again, I am a person that actually, I can say, has extreme anxiety. I am not diagnosed. I have not gone to the doctor about it. But I also noticed that, my sleeping pattern, and obviously I can attribute this to motherhood too, but, my sleeping patterns haven't been the greatest. And all in all, I just wanted to better myself. So I had taken the initiative, during the cancer journey to see what I was able to control and take back. So one of the biggest things was shaving my head. Because I know a lot of you people out there, a lot of my listeners, they are like, why the life of buzzed-haired mama? So that was one of the biggest things that I was able to take back. I was able to control. And it wasn't easy. Buzzing your hair, you have to have a total, badass mentality and understand why you're doing it. And the reason why I was doing it is because I was going through a time period where, nothing was making sense to me. Nothing was going my way. But the one thing that would, and I knew for a fact that because I had, certain friends in that time period where they're like, you know what, just buzz it. Buzz it. You look good. You look fantastic. And sure enough, when I did it, I did it for, my self-confidence to come back, but also did it because I was thinking about the future. I was thinking about how many people, how many cancer patients can see my Instagram, can see my Facebook, can hear these podcasts and say, it's just hair. Hair is a huge identity. It's a quality, it's a trait to many out there that are going through chemotherapy, specifically radiation. That's what, triggers my way of thinking. If I can take control of, my physical well-being while I'm dealing through something so scary, so sublime, why can't I show that? So that's one of the biggest things that I decided to do, and I'm still doing it to this day. So I think I still had the short hair, I want to say, at the beginning of my diagnosis. But gradually I started, taking little inches off of it. And eventually it became what it is today, like this big dome. I have a big head, obviously. My kids have a big head, so they get it from me. But in the span of, I want to say, 5 years, I've had about like 2 people reach out to me. And I think we've met through platforms like Instagram, um, where they have mentioned because they are going through their treatment and they've seen my posts, they have basically gone down the route where they've buzzed their hair and they've taken back that sense of control. So that sense of control in my day-to-day is a part of my self-care. That's a part of my happiness. And I physically do this. I want to say every week. There are weeks that I don't want to buzz it at all. But every week I tend to do this along with like skincare and, just resetting yourself, regrounding yourself, because that's the biggest thing. How often do we not take the time to actually just say, I need to reset? Kind of like all the TikToks that you see where it says reset Sunday. You need to do that. You physically need to do that in order to be the person that you are. Journaling has also been another important part of my self-care. And I'll tell you why. So in my younger years, in some of the previous podcasts, you'll hear me talking about how angry I was and how shy and standoffish I would be with anybody in my circle. And I think journaling has given me an outlet to write my feelings, write my outcomes, and then reflect back on them. Kind of like these podcasts where I'm able to listen to them at work when, I have a long day at work. Even like today, I just popped my podcast channel on and I was listening. A lot of these reflections is therapy. And I've mentioned this before. The therapy in a sense is letting yourself feel, letting yourself have these emotions. A lot of the times we do stop ourselves from feeling. One of the biggest ones for me is like crying when I'm angry. And I get asked, why are you crying if you're angry? Well, that's me letting out, that emotion, that stress, that that one physical attribute that I know that needs to happen. So when I journal, there are times that I do cry. And I look back at them and I'm thinking to myself, because if I were to talk to somebody different, like I do talk to my husband about a lot of things, I do talk to my sister about a lot of things, but if I talk to somebody who's completely different to me, has no idea what is going on, and they're willing to listen, that's kind of how the journaling works for me. I know we have options, for example, of like gratitude journals and those little things where you're able to write what you're thankful for, what you're looking forward to in the future. Um, these help you. They the ability to write what you're thankful for and what you're grateful for helps you reach that goal. So it goes back to the what I was saying. It helps you reach your goal of how to become a better person. Journaling in my work for a little period of time helped me a lot. Again, this goes through a lot of my mental well-being because I didn't know how to talk to anybody about what I was dealing with at work. And it wasn't too bad. Like, it was just more so for me to know how far I've come and how I can look back at this and just, give myself that credit that I was able to do that. Journaling has also gotten me through cancer. A lot of the times I would write out my frustrations, and I think one of the biggest ones was, why wasn't I able to get pregnant? Why wasn't I able to have kids when everyone else was around me was? I did spend a lot of time. Now, I don't talk a lot about depression, but I know for a fact that I felt that sensation come over me in the middle of my whole cancer journey, where I didn't know where to turn, but I was able to write this out and I was able to share. Essentially, down the line, I was able to share what I was feeling. Like, now, I'm not afraid to say it. Every single time I think about my cancer journey, I think about, why me? I thought about, you know, as a healthy young adult, why me? Why was family around me, you know, better off starting families? And, realistically, that's just, again, negative thoughts, negative words. Once you change those negative thoughts and negative words and you put positivity down in something like journaling, you'll see a world of a difference. Physical activity. That's something that has been very important to me since I was able to kick a soccer ball. I know for a fact that every time I'm able to step outside or I'm able to push myself or exert myself in a way, um, I am a happier person. I know not everybody feels that way, but some sort of movement triggers endorphins and triggers the best mental health that one can ask for. And I can attest to that because now that I've changed, like, and I'm not saying I've drastically changed my lifestyle, but now that I have incorporated a healthier lifestyle, I'm able to reap the benefits. And one of them is where I am today. Um, physically, my body has changed. And I've mentioned this in previous episodes where motherhood, cancer, and cancer have transformed my body into something completely and utterly different. That includes my buzzed head, but everything that I've worked for from the time that I started working out, I'm not going to say daily, but from the time I started working out and being consistent, I felt that I've improved my energy, I've improved my sleeping habits, I've also improved muscle memory. Muscle memory is very important because for a person that sits behind a desk like I do 8 hours of the day, you're basically, you know, and I try to move around, but you're basically just sitting still. Your heart rate is at a level that, 365 days out of the year should technically be, pushed a little bit. And that's why a lot of the times you find that, when it comes to young adults, because we are hearing a lot of it now, that young adults should take care of their cardiac health. Listen, the times that I put my exercises on, because I am doing, like I mentioned, a street parking program, I have not gone back. But every time I have done these exercises, I feel like a whole new person. And it's shown me not only consistency, but also dedication and also a mental well-being of a happier and healthier me. I think that's when I thrive the best. And that's such an important part of my self-care. even if it's just like 15-20 minutes of walking outside and just sitting there. Now I understand why people are like, I'm going to go sit outside while the sun is out. The sun makes a world of a difference. You're stuck in a garage, because a lot of the times I do my exercises in the garage. Canada, I guess like 3-4 months out of the 12, we're full of snow, cold weather. We're not able to see the sun as, some as other parts of the world. And that's why we lack like that vitamin D aspect. Or for that matter, we're just mentally unwell, if you can say it, if you can put it that way. Um, but when you're able to push yourself and you're able to actually see how consistent you are and how you are able to, progress in life, physical activity is the way to go. Now, younger, I did play soccer. I played soccer a lot. And I found that because of it, I've always enjoyed being fit, but it took me a while to find something that actually worked for me. And this is where it goes back to like navigating your mental and physical well-being. I don't do the gyms. I don't. I did, but I don't do the gyms. Why? Because I feel like a lot of people are looking at you and you're pressured to, complete certain exercises, things like that. But when you find, for example, in my case, it is a gym. However, um, she's a friend of my sister, also a friend of mine. However, when you have somebody that you're working with one-on-one, yes, you have a class of people around you, don't get me wrong, but it's a smaller setting and a smaller atmosphere. I think you find a lot more success in that. My friend Chelsea, she has her own business, runs her own business, and it's come a long way. And I think because I went to her, a lot of the fundamentals stuck with me. And I'm so thankful for that, because then I knew what I liked. Cardio, we're still working on. However, the weight training and the physicality, like being physically exerted, um, that really triggered something in me. And I found that because it was a challenge, I needed that something more. So that's where I physically came into what's called street parking. I've seen a lot of people on my Instagram page that were, well, I said a lot of people, but I've seen two. I've seen two people on my Instagram page that were following the program and that they were raving about it. And I started following their shift workouts. I think they were posting their shift workouts. And I started seeing that I liked it. Like I found that I liked it and that I was able to do it myself. If you are somebody that is self-dedicated and that you're able to, put up with the weights, and train yourself to the point that you enjoy lifting up heavy shit, street parking is a definite. So this program opened a lot of doors for me. And again, in a sense that it was able to find my strengths and my weaknesses at that. Because like I said, cardio is not my biggest strength. However, working on your cardio with their programs has been one of the best options and moments of my entire self-care journey. The other part to the physical well-being, I want to say, is that I'm able to regulate what I eat, but I'm not depriving myself, because a lot of the times when I was younger, I thought diets were the way to go. And I think some people still think diets are the way to go. You need every ounce of food you can get. Now, what you choose to put in your body is totally up to you. But once you start deciding to put the right things into your body, you will see a world of a difference. And I'm not just saying that physically, but overall, mentally, and you'll see it in your day to day, when you sleep, when you go to work. So that's definitely a must. Just understanding what you put into your body and not limiting yourself, because don't freaking limit yourself. You starve yourself, and it's the worst thing you can do to yourself. The last point, self-care for me, and I know I've come a long way with this, but I have prioritized my faith. I want to say for all my life, I've been a Roman Catholic, grew up Roman Catholic. So my, we're predominantly Roman Catholic in Central America. And I've never once, I don't know if I'm going to get backlash from this, but I've never once shied away from, you know, saying that there is a God and there is somebody like a guardian angel that's always around me. When I was dealing through cancer, I had to, you know, reorganize my thoughts because some of them were very dark and very scary. And I mean, even to this day, sometimes I have those thoughts, but I knew that I needed to reprioritize that faith would be one of my biggest mental well-beings. My best friend, she's overseas now, but her and I grew up, like I said, in the church, in the Roman Catholic Church. So our parents did put a lot of the the Sunday masses, uh, the novenas, the purissimas, like everything that happened, we were there. And I dearly miss her so, because I feel like a lot of the time that I'm doing this faith thing by myself, I do think of her a lot. She is one, aside from my parents, obviously, but she is one of the most strongest people in her faith that I know. And if it wasn't for her, I think I would be totally different than what I am today. But because I put faith first, I was able to find mental clarity during my cancer journey. I was able to rationalize the things that were happening to me. I have a tattoo. So I would consider tattoos self-care too, but I have a tattoo on my ribs, which has the prayer, the serenity prayer. So the one that says, you can't change things that are out of your reach, that one. I learned a lot from that prayer, because when it came down to making decisions, now whether it be having kids, the IVF treatments, the hysterectomy, um, all those were done with well judgment. Like, I wasn't afraid to make those decisions because of how much I prayed. Prayer is pretty powerful. Prayer in a moment of darkness and a moment of weakness, you are uplifted by this. I'm not even going to say a light, but you are uplifted by the most powerful, I don't know how to explain it, but surrounding around you. Every time that I would pray the rosary, or every time that I had somebody praying for me, when it came to like a surgery, or when it came to, my kids being sick, whatever the case was, I've always felt that energy. My parents say, that's the energy you feel of the Holy Spirit, which I do believe. I strongly believe. And I've never felt alone in these last couple of years of my life. Everything that we are taught obviously is taught with a reason, but it's also how you take it. Now, am I the one person that's going to open a Bible and say, oh, yeah, this is the reading for today? No. I haven't been to church for quite some time, but that's because I am waiting for my kids to grow up to the point that I'm able to sit there, they're able to sit there. And if I do have the chance to go, like I'll go. We ended up going on Ash Wednesday. Yes, Ash Wednesday. Myself, Ezekiel, and my sister and her little family joined me that day. My parents were in El Salvador at that time. But just being back at the church, there's such a serenity and such a calmness that helps. It does. And the clarity that one finds when you actually give yourself to the church. And I'm not saying, you know, be, because I'm not like, I am devoted, but I'm not, like I mentioned, I'm not 100% that person to be there right now, to physically be present right now. You see that a lot of the time some people are called back, and I do feel that calling. But as of right now, I still continue on with my prayer. I still continue on with my rosaries. I am a strong believer in La Virgen de Guadalupe. I have her tattooed on my arm for that reason. And all in all, they have helped me through so much. So a big attribute to my self-care is my faith. Self-care can come in many ways, shapes, or forms, but it's just, again, a matter of how you fill up your cup every single day. And these are just some of my thoughts and reflections and things that are still working for me. So even if you do like some people do up like a checklist and they put, the things that are important to them, whether it be healthy eats, walking daily, um, even limiting yourself to one coffee a day. I know it's not me because I love my coffee or my caffeine, but those things can help you strive to a better you. I am no professional. Obviously, I'm no professional, but I do know that if you lack self-care, you got to work on yourself, and you got to understand that, put yourself first when it comes the time to do that. A lot of us moms, we neglect ourselves. I've learned that, I've seen that, and I hope that, through your journey in life, you're able to take some time, put it aside, and actually say, okay, you know what? It's time for me to do this. And as soon as you start seeing self-care in your day-to-day routine, I'm sure you will see a happier you. Thanks again for listening to my podcast. I am ecstatic that we are 100 listens, or might be more than that, but we are over 100 listens on the Spotify platform. If there is anything that brings so much joy to my heart is the fact that I'm able to do this. And I'm going to continue doing this with hopes that it can reach a bigger audience. If you haven't yet, please follow our social medias, our Instagram, and again, the Spotify podcast, which is the Life of a Bus-Turn Mama podcast, for any future podcasts. This one's a quick one, but I felt it in my soul today. I felt like I needed to talk about self-care. So have a great night, everybody. Until the next one, take care.